Hello, my name is Robert Houghton, and my presentation is over mixed paradigm research, which combines quantitative and qualitative elements within a single study. I actually appreciate this form of research because I believe that it's important for us to consider both the abstract and the concrete impacts of our interventions. Obviously, this isn't applicable to every study, but it does provide a welcome shift in perspective, especially when collecting information on how to better support students' learning, which we know is typically a little bit more abstract at times when we're measuring engagement and such. So, let's begin. The article that I've selected to share is investigating the impact of introducing pair programming to primary computing education on female pupils' attitudes towards computing, which was written by Catherine Childs and Sue Sentence, both key members of the Raspberry Pi Foundation and heavily invested in computing education and its future with our students. This study used a randomized controlled trial, which is a quantitative practice, to select the schools that would and would not receive interventions to assess the impact of a 12-week pair programming intervention on girls ages 8 to 11. Their goal was to determine if girls would be more likely to consider futures in computer science based on said interventions. The control group continued their previous practices without a pair programming focus. Balance checks were conducted to ensure that variables such as socioeconomic standing did not skew data. Included in this study was a qualitative evaluation, which assessed whether the intervention was delivered as intended, the experience of the educators and students, and how they felt about pair programming and its impact. What did they find? For those of you without a background in computer science, pair programming is a common practice where one person takes the role of driver and is in charge of the inputs made. They are physically in charge of coding. Another takes the role of navigator, whose job is to assist in the planning and theoretical implementation of the coding process. The purpose is to minimize bias while maximizing reflection and planning by creating a dialogue between two people as they go about reaching their goals. The study determined that while there was a minor improvement on the intervention side, it was insignificant enough from a data perspective that they could not determine that the intervention was successful. However, the qualitative assessment did show a marked improvement in how students felt about the experience, showing that students enjoyed their time paired programming and found it engaging. Girls especially found the experience to be a boost in confidence. So why does this matter? Well, my focus is to see what the research says about engaging female students in computer science. So this applies as it's trying to assess whether pair programming impacts the retention and engagement of females in computer science. I've always had pair programming as a portion in my classroom, specifically when we teach the concept, but I was also curious if it should become more common. From this data, I think it would be viable to include more voice and choice elements, and every so often allow students to pursue coding tasks utilizing pair programming rather than working independently. So thank you for this time. Those are my resources.